welcome back to my channel. I do hope you're doing well. We have got another Scandals with Shan. We are a little bit backlit. I don't know if I'm going to have to turn the brightness up a little bit of the light. We're going to have to see, but we are all in black. We are spooky vibes. We have our black sippy cup because I am addicted to sippy cup and I wanted one purely for the Scandals with Shan. We have the iPad to hand and we also have some snacks, guys, okay? I'm peckish when I'm filming this, so Mikado is the way to go, alright? So don't be alarmed if I'm sitting eating a whole pack of Mikados throughout this video, because needs must sometimes. So you may have seen by the title already, or if you've been on my emails or my lifestyle, Instagram and food, that this month's topic is to do with the NHS. I feel the NHS is a very controversial topic, let's just say, and I asked you guys whether your thoughts, opinions, conspiracy theories, anything you've heard, let me know, and we're going to sit and we're going to have a little bit of a scandalous conversation, alright? So get comfy, I'm going to open my Mikados and let's get in with Scandals with Shan, the NHS Conspiracies. Right, we have gone a little tad brighter because I didn't think you could see us. I mean, probably that you don't want to see me in the state that I look right now. It's one of them times of the month and you're just like, no, not really vibing with it, you know. So let's kick off. I'm going to kick off with the ones that come through via email. So normally if you email in to, I've set up a mailbox just purely for like if people want to contact me through YouTube, and also involvement, which is AllThingsShannonLeighxx@gmail.com. It's always in the descriptions box below, and I do a thing on there normally on, I'd say, a Thursday or Friday. I send an email out because I normally will always film them on the Saturday or Sunday. So I asked over there, guys, NHS, your thoughts, your opinions, experiences, conspiracy theories, anything like that. And we had quite a few responses. So it says, one of my lovely says, hi, hope you're well. Thank you, my lovely. NHS, all the strikes are unnecessary, especially when cancer patients are having to wait. It may be making a point that we need NHS, and yes, we definitely do. But why are people's lives in more danger than they are already in? That is a point I agree with. I feel when it is affecting people's health and people's treatments, there has to be a better way, I think, of being able to get your point across without endangering or putting other people at risk. They should find another way. If there is no other way, then carry on regardless, because it's only hurting patients at the end of the day. I also think, yes, there is a cure for cancer, but we will never get it. I believe it will never come out because they see it as Mother's Nature way of clearing for more people to be born. And if they gave us a cure for cancer, think how full the world would be, as cancer is one of the biggest killers and neurological disorders. I suppose without them we would be like sardines. So best way, never release a cure for cancer or neurological disorders. Say hi to Mama G and hope you're both well. I've never thought about the neurological disorder part of it, but the cancer, it infuriates me, let me just tell you. For the amount of money and like, so the money that goes in it, the fundraising for it, and there's nothing. I personally do feel there is a cure for cancer, and at the moment one of my friends, their friend is going through it. They have melanoma, which we all know is what Nana G had, and the NHS writ him off. They was like, we can't do anything more, that's it. And his wife found new like research and things and it's actually linked to the pharmaceutical company Pfizer, which I know is very controversial because of the C vaccine, and they've tried him on this new course of treatments, but of course it has to be privately funded. So there is a page, and I've donated, Mum's donated, the friends, and he's got a really good set of donations behind him, and it's helping to pay for, I don't know how many courses of treatment it will give, but I feel like he's on his second lot, and it's about £12,000 a course, I think. And I just think the ingredients that are in it, Pfizer have said are available to the NHS. So for me, how can the ingredients, because he wasn't in a good way, and this new treatment, he's now like, he's eating properly, The results are coming back a little bit better. He's able to go out of the respite home. Like, there is something that within that treatment is working for him. And I think the latest update was they managed to get a deal with Pfizer, of where Pfizer would contribute a certain amount to the next lot of treatment, because they could see it was working and responding well with him. And for them to say the ingredients are on the NHS, but they're not giving them, when you see the results that this guy's had within so many weeks, think how many people that could help. But this is how messed up I think the world is. I agree that they will never release it because it is one of the biggest killers. And as you say, if we didn't have it, think of the overpopulation. I just think it's absolutely disgusting. And my feeling is, unless you fundraise it or you have the money to pay for these private treatments, unfortunately you're not given much hope. Like, we had it with Nana G. She had the melanoma, and then I think it had come back and it had spread, and they just didn't want to do anything. And I think everyone has a life and everyone should have a right to live their life, and if there are resources there, they need to be given out. Because I'm already on the Mercados, guys, sorry. It needs to be given out, and it needs to be offered. It shouldn't be that you have to pay for something that is available to the service that a lot of us pay for. We all have national insurance taken out for NHS. So the fact that in these circumstances people aren't being offered the right help, it does aggravate me. And I understand, because I've just finished my book, this is going to hurt. And it does give you an insight into the NHS and how it's run. And you haven't got to tell me that they are struggling, okay? They're underpaid, they're overworked, and I think in some areas underqualified. From what I was reading in that book, there are people being put in charge of lives that all they've done is read from a book. They haven't got experiences. And as I say, I've only finished it today, and his last diary entry was something that kind of stopped. He didn't want to do anything after that because it was a very traumatic experience to read, let alone go through. And he says, like, all the extra hours, that never gets picked up. But you make one wrong thing and that's it. You're like, disciplinary, da 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 da. I don't know where it can go with the NHS. I really don't. I feel it gets abused. I genuinely do. Like, I'm someone, I will never go to the doctor unless I have to. So say, for example, earlier on in the year, I had a letter I had to go for my smear. Then it got rearranged because the nurse weren't working that day, and it got rearranged again. And when I got there, they said to me, you're 3 weeks too early. I was supposed to have it done near my birthday. I was like, well, I had the letter. I wouldn't come here out of my own will for a smear. Can it get done? It got done, and that was that. I haven't really had many involvements with the NHS because I wouldn't say I haven't needed to. When I have my foot surgery, so I have problems with some of my toes and I've had to have quite a few surgeries over the years, I pay for that privately for a chiropodist, because to get the treatment that I would need from the NHS, I think they said was something like 6 to 7 months. I can't be in pain with my feet for 6-7 months. So anything with my foot care, I've had to pay privately. And when I started spotting, I never normally spot. I'm normally very regular with my menstrual cycle, and I started to spot, and I called up my doctors, and it was kind of like, oh well, just monitor it. And it happened for a few months continuously, and I was like, this isn't right. I was spotting and it was like clots, and they was just like, well, you can go to A&E and like you'll sit there and wait and they'll just do a test to like test the blood. So I said, well, could you not like maybe book an appointment? Like, if I knew appointment, it sounds gross, like give me a jar, I'll pop the specimens in the jar. No. So I never saw anyone about that. I don't spot anymore. I think it was due to stress. I think that was my reasoning for that. And then I have quite a few moles over my body. And of course, what with Nana G with melanoma, and my granddad had melanoma, I like to monitor my moles, and I noticed one on my belly and under my leg that they was changing colour very quickly. Again, I called my GP. It was 3 weeks to get a telephone consultation, and then from a telephone consultation it was another 2 or 3 weeks to get a Skype or a face-to-face. So when I called them, I said, can I just send you a photo? Because I went online and I sent a photo to a private GP, and they said, you need to go in and have that looked at because of the rate it was changing and the size and everything like that. You need to get it looked at. I sent that email to them and they said, yeah, we can't take that. I was like, what do you mean you can't take that? Well, that could be anyone. It was a proper online medical thing, and they wouldn't do anything. They said, just monitor it for 4 weeks and come back to us if there's any change. I monitored it for 4 weeks. It changed a lot. And again, it was like, well, 3 weeks. And I was like, you know what? I haven't got time to have this on my mind worrying what the hell it could be. Like, as I say, they was getting bigger, they was getting larger, they was getting like more brown. Sometimes it was red. If I caught the one on my leg when I was shaving, it would bleed, and it was just like, no. So I called my local dermatologist clinic, and I was like, look, they have like a mole clinic within there. I explained everything, and they said, all your receptionist needs to do is just to put a referral through to us and we can book you an appointment. I asked my GP's office if they could do that. She said no, they would not do that until I had the telephone and then if needed the Skype. So that was at least 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, you know what? No. So I called back to the clinic. I was like, can I get booked in? I think this was like a Thursday. I was booked in for that Saturday. I went in. I had not only just the 2 moles that I was concerned about, I had every single mole on my body photographed, measured, checked. Cost a fortune, I'm not going to lie, and this is what aggravates me. I'm not someone who milks the system, probably like a lot of people, and when there is something that I think is quite severe, like moles changing drastically, there's skin cancer in the family on both sides, and it's just kind of like, or you get told, call 8 o'clock on the morning and see if you can get an emergency appointment. You can be on there dead on 8 o'clock. You are position 15 in the queue. When you get there, no, they're all gone. And it really aggravates me because when I last had to go for my pill check, which now I don't even get the contraceptive pill free off the NHS, I go through that privately as well, because trying to get an appointment for that was just an absolute nightmare. Last time I went for my pill check, I think it was probably about a year ago. And I was sitting in there and there was a guy and a lady and they got called in. I'd been there before them. They come in after and got called in. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm sitting there and it got to like 15 minutes after my time and I was like, oh, like it needs to hurry up. I've got to get back to work. And the guy that was sitting there, I was like, oh, you're right. He was like, no, I just got a really bad sore throat. And I'm like, oh, how long have you had it? He was like, oh, a day. How have you got an appointment? Oh, I called up and I got the appointment. And I think I have to book, well, when I used to have to book 3 to 4 weeks in advance for my pill check. And then I think when you have people that genuinely need appointments and, oh, cucumbers. Oh, sorry about that, guys. And I think a sore throat for one day, I don't think personally warrants a doctor's appointment. That might be me being harsh. I think if you've had it one day, if it's sore to the point you cannot talk, you cannot breathe, you cannot swallow, okay. He was absolutely fine. He said, oh, it just tingles a bit. I feel you're wasting that time for someone who could have really done with that. And yeah, I don't really have any dealings with the NHS at the moment. Anything I have to pay privately, because I think if I feel the need, I need to have something seen to. It must be something that's bugging me, because I say it's not something, I don't go to the doctors willy-nilly. Like if I go, there's got to be something wrong. And I don't know, I just don't know how it's going to get better. I really don't. I think it has been abused for far too long. And I think unfortunately it's going to continue to get abused because, as I say from the book that I read, the guy, he'd had his training, but then like say people senior above him, they was off gallivanting, and it's the people on the walls that obviously are taking the rap. And he had to do so much that was outside of his field, but was still expected of him. And yeah, I don't know. I do think there is a cure for cancer. Throwing it out there. I think there is a reason they're not pushing it out, and I do feel that could potentially be it, because it is one of the largest killers in the world. It's almost like, as you say, it's Mother Nature's way of cleaning out to let new population in. I don't like it. I don't like it, as I say, when I see the strikes, I understand the points, but I don't like it when it's like it's delaying people's treatments and that. Like when we had the sea and everything was locked down, when that started to get lifted and like you could go to concerts or you could go to pubs, but you couldn't yet go in the doctors or have a procedure, how does that work? So you can go to a festival and be in contact with all them people, but you couldn't go in a doctor's room one-on-one and wear a mask if you need to. Like, it didn't seem right. And I felt like that was used a long time after everything started opening up as an excuse. And yeah, I don't think it was a good example. And as I say, there's been so many, I think, notices from GP surgeries. I believe mine was included in a list of GP surgeries that were still refusing to give face-to-face appointments. Like my GP surgery, unless you are on death's door, you still cannot get a face-to-face. They will Skype you or they will telephone call you. But obviously, if you've got, say, for example, moles changing or lumps, that you can't do that over a phone call. You need to see someone. Someone needs to physically examine you, but Another one of my lovelies says, I think there's a cure out there for cancer and the NHS know what it is but aren't coming clean. Lots of people are trying to get NHS treatment for certain things but being turned down because of red tape, or they aren't able to speak up. The nurses do a great job and the doctors, God bless them, but lots of things aren't told to the patient about alternatives and therapies available. We would be lost without our doctors and nurses. I completely agree. For what they have to put up with and the wages that they are paid, they do an amazing job. Like, when the thing that gripes me is service people. So say, for example, NHS, the police, fire brigades, anything like that, are paid pennies to, say, for example, footballers. Footballers per minute could earn more than a person in those areas in a year. That is what I think is very backward. Yes, it's great you could be the greatest footballer and kick the ball around, but what implication is that having on someone's life? Okay, you might say football is a great thing to watch, but would you rather maybe halve a footballer's wage and keep the doctors happy that are potentially the ones to keep you alive whenever you need to? It's just, I don't like it. And this is the thing. Didn't get my lips around that one that time, guys. I do feel there are a lot of areas of whereby alternatives could be given, but maybe they don't necessarily have the resources. I'm not too sure. I know they can't speak up because it's like almost you speak up, you're punished straight off. But I do think that, I reckon within this decade, so what we're 2023, I reckon within this decade we will have a whistleblower on the NHS of what on earth is actually going on and what on earth is going on with the money that's being ploughed into it. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't really research much on it, but I think apart from the C vaccines that all of a sudden seem to like, right, bish, bash, bosh, that's it, done, rolling them out left, right, centre. There's illnesses that have been around in the world for decades and probably centuries that we still don't have any type of cure for. So it's like, how has all of that worked so quickly? And yet the diseases that you have as much knowledge as you possibly could for the length of time that they've been going around still don't have some type of vaccine or cure. It just baffles me. And one of my lovelies says, sorry Shannon, not sure on this one. Do know that even before COVID, NHS was not being run properly. The waiting lists were long and not enough staff, and that was 7 years ago. What they spend money on is mad artwork. Banking, which is when staff get paid a lot more money for extra shifts, and it's still going on now. Even my GP retired because of Now system, said he could not do his job and that's what he'd always done. So I've never heard of that, banking, where they get more money to do extra shifts. See, because the guy's book that I've just read, he said, I'm sure that when they done extra shifts, like it was just expected. But if you're doing extra shifts, you should be paid for that. Just like in any normal job. You work extra, you get overtime. I think there's not enough staff. I think there's not enough resources. I think potentially there's not enough training out there given to him, because some of the things that the guy went through, for me, he should have had some form of counselling, therapy offered to him by the NHS, and it was like, kind of, you've had a bad day, brush it off, come back to work tomorrow, back on a 12-hour grind. I don't feel, for the way that the people within the NHS support people, there's no support for the NHS. And I don't know how moving forward that can change. I have heard quite a few people recently talking about, I don't know if it's some form of a bill or a legislation regarding national insurance. And it's something about the contribution for the NHS, whether people want to opt in or opt out. That to me has swings and roundabouts. Some people don't have the funds to be able to go privately. I completely get that. And there may be a time where you're in a situation where you can't go privately and you have to go through the NHS. I feel, when I look at my pay packet and I see the national insurance, and then you know you get your breakdown of which, however much out of that goes to which department, it really does aggravate me. I can't lie, because I think that amount of money each month goes towards it, and I can't even get a contraceptive pill. Everything I have to pay. So my contraceptive pill for 6 months I think is like £35, which is not terrible. But my foot surgeries, I dread to think how much I've paid over the years for my foot surgeries. My mole checkups and my mole diagnosis and everything like that, they was expensive. And I think it would, imagine if you could be like, well, actually, Mr. Taxman, I had to go privately this month, so can I have my refund of XYZ amount? Or can I have that deducted from any contribution this month? It doesn't work like that. I feel England is a taking country. Everything is take. Whether it be the taxman, your energy suppliers, your councils, I think it's take. And there never seems to be a reward back for people. That's just me. And another one of my lovelies commented on my Instagram and says, can't wait for this. I'm an NHS nurse, so it's interesting to see the views and opinions of others. I'm going to tuck into a few Mercados, my lovelies, and let's see what you think, because we've got a lot to go through. We're all back. I've had a few Mercados. Got my sippy cup to hand. A lot of the responses from Instagram this month was sent to me via DM, because Instagram gives you a tiny box, and I feel like, as I say, this is a very controversial topic. Like, please don't sit here and think she's not right, I'm not saying I'm right. What have I got? Oh, guys, 2 weeks until me and Mama G are at Mr. White's Steakhouse. Yes, please. Thank you, Countdown. Now I'm hungry and I don't want me Mercados and I want some steak. But thanks for notifying me. It's a very controversial topic, and I think everyone has dealings with it, whether it be pleasant or unpleasant. And as I say, unfortunately, my dealings have not been the most pleasant. And it isn't just through me. It's how I've seen Mama G, her treatment through NHS's, and like my grandparents, how they was treated. And I don't know, it just doesn't. Why am I getting sent stuff about Lush now? Is Lush now doing new reveals? I can't deal with this. I'm in summer, but I'm getting sent loads of stuff about autumn, and I'm like, I mentally cannot deal with this right now. We're in summer, Shan, but is it going to stop me looking online tonight? Absolutely not. Anyway, getting sidetracked there. I cannot... Ow. You know what? In the light, I thought I had chocolate in my teeth. No, I haven't. And it's squeaky chair. So random and diversional. What is that? Is it the light? It's the light on my teeth, ain't it? It's making me weird. It's making my lip look really weird. Guys, what is going on? Right, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Shan, leave it be, girl, leave it be. As I say, with my grandparents and the way they was treated, and I understand if you're in that profession and obviously the way that you're being treated, you are going to have bad days. But I think it doesn't take a lot for just common courtesy or manners. And I walked into several times in my nan when she was in hospital, and heard the way that people was talking to her. And trust me when I tell you, I was very quick to pull them up. If you don't want to be in that profession, there is nothing holding you there. There is no need to be so horrible to the vulnerable sometimes, and that is something that it really does gripe me. So as I say, a lot of these come through via email or on the DMs of Instagram. So I will read the first one. I tell you one scandal on the NHS. When my nanny and granddad were at home the last 6 months, we found a carer for them to help in between us going over. We had specific beds from the NHS in one side of the house, so it would be easier to get around as they broke their hips. Oh, honestly, Nan had a knee replacement, and that was, like, takes away everything from them, doesn't it? When they passed away, my mum and aunt started to clear the house. So they got to the second living room, which is where they slept for a while, and discovered hundreds and hundreds of pounds of untouched and unopened medication, tablets, COVID tests, etc. My aunt asked specific people about where to take all of this brand new untouched medication and previous resources. They was told to just throw them all away, to waste precious and expensive medical resources that have been unopened, where they could have taken the meds back. And what makes me so cross is that there are people in other countries that couldn't even dream of getting that type of medication unless they sold everything on their backs for it, and it was so wasteful. I'm thinking, did it potentially have expiry dates? But I'm not too sure. If they were like bandages and everything like that, like COVID tests, I don't think had a date on them. I don't know. Or if there was a date, it was like a good couple of years like after, so they could still be used. The government keep reminding us how stretched the NHS is. What on earth is going on? The government have made the NHS cut corners with all sorts of bits to save the NHS, but when it comes to literally flushing money down the toilet, it blows my brains. I also believe that GPs only do phone consultations now is because they want to match their workload to their salaries. I'm with you on that, because as I say, my GP surgery, I haven't got a good word to say about my GP surgery. The staff are rude. The receptionists are, I think nosy is an understatement. And we don't even have a proper GP now. We just have a team of locums. So there is no one there that actually knows your proper file. They will literally just scan it before your appointment and be like, oh. And then you feel you have to keep repeating yourselves. And I do feel that it is still being used as an excuse for these telephone consultations. Like, why would I want someone sitting in it when I can just talk to them over a phone? I do get that. They don't want the workload, but I don't think certain GPs or that the salary is too bad. I think it depends, obviously, qualifications, but it can't be a terrible, terrible salary for some of the people that we have doing it. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I don't know. Which I don't blame them, and I'm not saying anything bad about my doctors because they're lovely. I'm glad you got good ones, darling. And one more thing that grinds my bloody gears is that I've had ear issues since I was a baby. So when I have time off work because of an ear issue, I return to work and get my wrist slapped because I can't supply the woman a doctor's note. Little do they know I ask one every time and I never get one. Why is it so blooming hard for the admin part of the NHS to sign a little piece of paper so I can give it to my boss and I don't get my head bitten off? I don't want this to sound like I hate all doctors and nurses and GPs. They've been through enough related with C, and I'm related to nurses. It's just the solutions and stuff, it doesn't make sense. Hope you have a lovely day and sending love to all nurses and GPs. I do get where you're coming from though. It is so frustrating, and I genuinely feel if it wasn't so abused, it could get in a better position, but I do think it is absolutely abused. I would put a thing out, and as I say, this is very controversial. This is just my opinion. Please don't. I mean, if you want to have a moan at me in the comments, please do. But I think if there was some form of potentially a charge, so if you've gone to A&E and you genuinely need help, okay. I think there should be something where you almost have an app or have a booking system, and if you want to go to A&E, you book your slot, because I think there's a time limit of around 4 hours that they say you have to be seen in A&E, seen or discharged. Yeah, when was the last time if you went to A&E, you were seen within 4 hours? I know the average one from my hospital is between 7 and 9 hours to be seen. Can you imagine sitting there for 7 to 9 hours? I feel if you make a trip to A&E, a amount should be taken or held, I don't know, 30 quid for example. And then if when you get there, they are deemed, yes, you actually do need it, you have that refunded. If you get there and it is for a toothache or an earache and it is blatant misuse of the service, I think you should be charged. My GP says, oh, if you miss an appointment, we'll charge you. How do they have the means of charging? I don't know how that works because they don't have my bank details on the system, so I don't see how they can charge that or how they would charge it. Would you have to come in and pay before your next appointment? But they have no card facilities. So you see, it's like a catch-22. I do think anything as well, I tell you what really boils my blood. If, for example, you've gone on a night out, you've got a little bit merry, you might have fallen over and hurt your knee, and then you go and sit in A&E. You're intoxicated above the levels. You then start getting abusive, which they don't need, and it is literally for a scraped knee. Unless you do it and your knee swells out and you feel you've popped a joint out. But again, I feel if it's self-inflicted, deal with it. I have had many nights, I'm not going to lie, I might have fallen out of bed, I might have hit my head or whatever. I'm not thinking my first thing, oh, I need to go to an A&E. I pay into this, so I need to use it. No. Strap my head up, get a bag of ice, and I go back to kip. I think there needs to be something to eliminate the time wasters, and then if you eliminated the time wasters, the people who genuinely need the help could be seen, and responses and turnaround times could be a lot quicker. That's just, I do feel it is a system that is abused, and it does aggravate me because people need help, and I feel the people who need the help aren't the ones getting it. So this is another twist on it. One of my lovelies says, I've heard that the care offered for the mental health is atrocious if it's the government because there isn't enough staff and the staff isn't equipped for the number of patients requiring help. I've also heard that the NHS isn't doing too well and is a bit chaotic. This is from all the mental health patients and family who are doctors. So you obviously have people within your family who are in the industry. And I've said, probably since before C, that I don't think there is help out there enough for people with mental health. I went through a stage, I think it was just before C. I think it was on a Vlogmas, and I had a little bit of a meltdown with thinking of Nan and everything that was going on. And I'd said how I did call a GP and I was like, look, this isn't right. The things I'm thinking, it's not right. And they was like, well, you just got to speak to someone. And I said, I would like to speak to like the GP when he was there. Oh, no, you'll have to speak to someone from the mental health department. And I was like, oh, okay, could you send me details? I'll just go online and just call a charity. That was what I got from my receptionist. And you know when you just think, no, so I didn't bother. I didn't bother, and part of me was thinking of going back into like counselling or therapy. But again, it's added extra expense that I could be doing with that, because the therapy and counselling is not cheap. Not cheap at all. And I feel like my YouTube is like my therapy and counselling, because it allows me to switch off. I can be who I want to be. I can sit and have a chit chat, and that is not costing me a penny. I mean, it might be on the haul videos. It is affecting my bank balance, but generally I'm just sitting here, and if I'm having a little bit of a rant or a cry on a vlog, it's like offloading to you guys. And I feel like we're a good little community here. We have everything for everyone. I didn't speak to anyone on that, and a few things have happened at my workplace recently, and it was something that we should have had like someone to speak to after. And we had one lady who come in who was part of the organisation, but since then there hasn't been anything. And I do think there does need to be more, because it seems to be people are getting younger and younger and experiencing mental health. And I think if you can catch it early or try and help as early as you can, it can help and like be beneficial for them along, as opposed to almost being shut out and being like, well, no, you just got to kind of deal with it. Like, the whole world's tough. Get a grip. Completely, the whole world is tough. I think this is probably the crappiest time of the world. I mean, I feel like even in C, we didn't have the price rocket of what groceries are nowadays. What on earth is going on with that? But what really aggravates me is, say for example, the previous Prime Minister, God knows how many days she done, but she's on a salary now of over 100 grand a year for doing what? Messing up the country in the short amount of days that he was Prime Minister. That's where the money structures need to change. The Prime Ministers, do they need all these fancy cars? Do they need all this security, the chauffeur, everything like that? Give it to the people who are on your front line. And during C, when everyone was going out, doing their claps, that stopped. Where is the continued support from now, you know? And I think a little bit of appreciation in the world doesn't go amiss. If they was just appreciated more or acknowledged more, they may be a bit more like, not to let things slide, because obviously with salary and everything like that, but you'd kind of get a better response, I think. Whereas you see certain people in the media and it's like, how have you got this life? How? And then you have genuine people that are struggling to make ends meet, going to food banks. People who work are going to food banks because they can't afford the cost of living. I thought by working it was supposed to try and help make you comfortable and like give you a little bit more freedom, but it doesn't seem to be that way. And I just think, I don't know, it just, it really does baffle me. But in the roundup of the mental health side, I really don't think that there is enough help there. And as I say, I can say because I tried to experience firsthand, and it was just kind of like a shutdown moment, let's just say. Another one of my lovelies. I feel there's a cure for the cancer, but through the NHS, due to the growing population in Britain, they can't legislise it, as Britain will become even more overrun, the government's words, and pharmaceutical companies would go out of business to a degree. This is why me and this person are like, we get on and we know each other. How can they within a month or so create the cure for C that they knew nothing about, but not for a disease that's killing thousands of people daily and unfortunately been on this world for years? It doesn't make sense. This is my whole mindset. As I said earlier, you had that come out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Unless they knew about it beforehand and it was like a big conspiracy theory that they knew it was going to happen, so they had it already batch produced or whatever. But for something with so little information, you didn't create just one, you had two, then it was 3, 4. I spoke to my nan last week and I think she's on her 5th jab. Why? For me, I had C twice throughout the whole time. I am unvaccinated, I am unjabbed, I have had nothing at all because I did not trust the legality and I'm going to say the purpose behind it. You might say, well, the purpose was to go and do things. I remember at my workplace, everyone was getting it. And me and another girl, my girl from work, we was like, we're not getting it. And they said, you won't be able to do this, you won't be able to travel, da 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 da. I still travelled. I still went out. I still done my thing. I still went to concerts and festivals. I think that was a huge scaremongering tactic. And no one knows what the reaction of those vaccines could be. And that is what I was worried about. Like, it's not like if you had, I don't know, something for measles and mumps. That's been around for decades and decades and generations. And you know what the side effects are. I would see some videos online of fully functioning, healthy adults. And within, say, weeks or months of taking that vaccine, couldn't walk, had lost their nerves damage. Like, that to me, something was in there that reacted, and I just did not want to take that chance. I didn't want to take the chance of being that person that took it and having such an adverse reaction. And yeah, I didn't. And again, for the fact that I thought, how has all of this been pulled together so quick? When, as you say, it's not just cancer. There is loads of illnesses around the world that have been there for decades, and you still haven't found cures for that. Yet all of a sudden, we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got everything there. We can fight it all off. It does, yeah, I'm completely with you on that one, because But this is where I just think the government's so corrupt. You're not allowing people to have their life. Because I understand we are overpopulated. We're overpopulated now. That is never going to change. If anything, you're just going to get more and more overpopulated with the things that are happening in the world and the reason why we are getting overpopulated. I don't think it's fair that they have the right to determine whether someone lived or died through treatment. No, that's not a bit of me. One says, oh love, a few years ago I filed something in online which meant if anything ever happened to me they couldn't use my organs. If they needed something of yours and you were sick, I'm sure they wouldn't think twice about bumping you off to harvest what they could, especially for the rich. Now why does this remind me of a film? I feel like I've seen a film where it was like they were taking kidneys, and don't get me wrong, I do think that shizzle still happens. Am I in La La Land? But is it like, what's the word? Is it like kidney farming or something? Where like people wake up and they've just took a bit of their body. Oh, it's a film. I feel like it's called The Clinic. I've just got a picture of a woman in a bath waking up. And she's got all loads of stitches and wadding. And I'm sure it's a kidney they've taken. I'm sure it's The Clinic. I'll have to have a look. But again, it's terrible because I wouldn't actually put that past the government either. And these are the people that are supposed to be in charge. If we can have those thoughts about our own government, they are screwed. Absolutely screwed. Here we go, we're getting on to the ones that come through on the Instagram stories. When I was taken to A&E the beginning of June, they did take good care of me, but I don't think there's enough doctors around, and the people going in with the coughs and colds, what is going on with the NHS? Something needs to be done about this. This is what I mean. It's the trivial things that we still have pharmacies, we still have walk-in centres, we have resources to go before we go to A&E. You have, as I say, pharmacists, you have your little health things in supermarkets, walk-in centres, your GP. A&E I feel should be the last resort unless it is something like life-threatening or you're there for treatments. If you've got a cough and a cold, get under your bed, sweat it out. If there's anything wrong, like if I say if you can't breathe or there's breathing problems, by all means call. If you're just genuinely sitting there because you've got a cough, and it's been a cough for say a day or so, I think you're actually taking the mick out of the NHS, and that is the things that I do agree needs to be clamped down on. One of my lovelies says, I work for the NHS and we are so lucky to have it. Like everything else, there are flaws and targets to meet in order for the service to continue being provided, and that means some people will have to wait longer for treatment, etc., but it's to stop the majority of having to do so. I get that, but I think how... So for me, right, if you had to have cancer treatment, for example, and then you've been waiting for this, because I don't think treatments are fairly quick. So you could have been waiting maybe a month or two to start your treatment. And then they say, oh, actually, you can't have it that day because we're going on strike. And the next appointment is next month. There needs to be someone held accountable for that, because you cannot just stop or start or interfere with people's treatments. I get there is a lot of flaws within the system, like anything else. Look at any other department, police force, everything. There's flaws everywhere. But as you say, there's stuff that has to be done in order to meet the standards. And I think if the time wasters were cut out, that would allow the NHS to be able to maybe have a better standard and focus on people who genuinely needed it. And as I say, not the time wasters or people who have maybe had a bit too much to drink and are just sitting in there because they've fallen over and they just want to be checked out. I think that's self-inflicted. I would be mortified to have to go to hospital if I was intoxicated. If I'd got so rat-assed and then fell and injured myself, I wouldn't want to go to hospital. I'd think, oh my God, I've now got to take someone's place because I've been too shit-faced, basically. And I don't know, I've fallen off a bar or something. I have fallen off a bar before, guys. Fun little story. I was in Cambridge for a weekend with my friend who was up uni in there. And I fell off of a bar in, I'm going to say they were about 6-inch heeled boots. Fell down, my ankle. Pew. gone. I didn't go A&E. I stumbled to the next bar. I stumbled home, well, to my friend's dorm. Next morning I woke up, my ankle was swollen. When I tell you swollen, I was like, oh, I was intoxicated. I could still walk on it. I could still put a bit of pressure. If it had been to the point where I couldn't, I'd have thought, oh, crap. And then I would have been embarrassed to be like, they'd say, well, how did you do this? Oh, I was drunk and I fell off the top of the bar. But, touch wood, I was okay. I just think, I don't know, I think they are so under time restrictions and that there. It just needs to be monitored. I think there definitely needs to be something in place. What to go in place, I don't know. I'm going to sit and have a few more little Micados and then we'll get in because we've got quite a few more to get through, guys. Right, back for the final part, guys. I have no idea what to think, but they have helped my husband all his life, so I'd like to think there is still good. I love that. And as I say, please don't think if like myself or comments on here, no one is bashing the NHS. It's just, you have to kind of see the good and the bad. And I get that. Some people have amazing services with the NHS and some people don't. As I say, reading that book, it gives you an insight into like certain wards and certain areas where one ward could be so overstaffed in that, but it's not classed as like a necessary ward, but then they can't utilise the skills to what they need in, say, the understaffed ward. I think, I don't know. It is a very tricky one. As I say, I've read the book, but until you like actually, it's like with any profession, unless you do it and you know the ins and outs, it's hard to say a fair comment on it. I can just go by personal experiences with myself or family, and as I say, bits and bobs that I've read on there. I understand the frustration with pay, and as I say, the way that the footballers run around and the sports people, I think is ridiculous. That money needs to be utilised to people within public sectors that are doing stuff like this, for example. I'm so glad that your husband's had good treatment, and I bet you there are hundreds of thousands more people that have good treatment. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. When I get older, who knows? See, the thing for me is, if I was to have a child, I would be very, very worried to have a child through the NHS. And you're probably thinking that these are very big statements to have, Shan. After reading that last book and him telling you about like the labour ward and that, I would be even more petrified. When he had a situation, he had the buzzer and he was dealing with something that was very serious. I think, shoulder dyslexia. The baby was head out but the shoulders were stuck. He was trying to deal with that. The bleeper was going on because they had a ruptured placenta in another room. He was the only like main person on the duty. Everyone else was preoccupied. And he's like, what do? I need to get this baby out here and I need to get ruptured placenta. Like that, oh my God, it would freak me out. Like the thought of labour itself freaks me out. Because I think your body's going into unknown. And you don't know how your body's going to react to it. And if you ever come across complications, you have to be able to know and trust the team that you've got there, that they can come to you within like a split second if need be, and they're not going to be preoccupied with something else. So, I mean, I always said from when I was younger, because I used to like watching the Royal Family, I always used to say to Mum, Mum, if I have a baby, I'd like it at the Portland. She's like, when you grow up and you see how much the Portland is, you might change your mind. I saw how much the Portland was. I don't want children that much. I don't. Like in America, for example, they say it ranges from $10,000 to $30,000 to have a child. I think they said to call an ambulance is about $2,500. So when you compare us to America, America is very much a privatised healthcare, and if you don't have health insurance or money, basically, you don't get healthcare, which I don't think that that is fair, because everyone should be entitled to a level of healthcare and a level of service. As I say, America is just fully privatised. And there are some things within the American sector that I do agree with, i.e. if you want to have all of these children, I do think that you should pay a certain amount. That is going to be a very controversial opinion, but unfortunately that is mine. I think if you have one or two, whatever, you only have two genders. That again is probably very controversial. Oh God, Shan, what are you doing? So you have male or female born, okay? If you have that, and then some people just want big families. But then sometimes a guy, again, in the book, the guy wanted his partner to have a cesarean because she'd had so many childbirths. I think this was like her 4th or 5th child. And he said, but like, she was fine to push normally. He wanted a cesarean and he pushed it and stuck his horns in and he wanted a cesarean. But they shouldn't be dictated to what they have. I feel, again, when there's maybe like so much going on in labour wards and you need to be there, you need to be that, and it's too much. And I think that itself, the labour ward is a very critical ward, because when reading that you could see how 1 minute it'd be fine and then all of a sudden your bleepers go in and you're attending to one and it's going again and there's not enough people, and that is a matter of life and death in some cases for the mother and for the baby. And I don't know, I don't see America's healthcare being so overrun like ours. Could that potentially be because it is a privatised sector? But then saying that, America has, I would say, a lot more, well, I don't know what not the statistic, but I don't know what the saying would be, but I feel America has a lot more homeless, a lot more self-inflicted injuries on the streets, let's say, than what we have. But again, I feel that could be because it's privatised. But I do think it's right in certain circumstances to charge. Like where I said, if you're waiting in A&E and the doctor says, actually, no, you could have just gone to a pharmacy for that, I think you should be charged, because I do feel it's a waste of time for people who genuinely would need assistance. That's just my very controversial there, Shan, isn't we? Another one of my lovely says, oh, I love this. C jabs were unnecessary and has done damage to healthy people. Also, where can I watch? So I hope that you know where the channel is, my lovely. If not, I'll drop you a little DM. But that's what I mean with when I saw the things of, it will always remember, there was a lady, I think she was mid-20s, perfectly fine lady. She had the jab and within 2 weeks she had no like nerve sensation. In essence, she was paralysed. The nervous system, she couldn't walk, she couldn't do anything. Another guy had the jabs, complained of headaches. They just thought it was, what did I say? I can't remember, maybe just thought it was a headache or something. And it actually turned out to be aneurysms that they feel had clotted from the jabs, because the thing that was making the clots was what was in the jabs. It really does, it does baffle me. I'm not going to lie. It baffles me and it worries me. And that's why I said, unless it was for the fact of you can never leave your house again, you're literally under house arrest unless you have these jabs. I mean, I probably still wouldn't have had the jabs. I'd be like, well, put me under house arrest. I work from home. That's all I've been wanting, to work from home, and I still can't do that. But I was like, I didn't want to be peer pressured into it. As I say, I'm pretty much one of the only ones out of my friendship groups and my work groups that isn't jabbed. And I think for me, it was, I didn't want it done and I wasn't going to be coerced into doing it. And I haven't, as I say, unless that goes, I'm just like, don't know. One of my lovely says, after 38 working in the NHS, defo no conspiracies. Definitely no conspiracy theories. Not got time for that. That's completely you. As I say, I think, but in any industry or thing, there is going to be theories and there is going to be people's opinions and people's thoughts and actions and everything like that. And I wonder how long the NHS has been going then. I feel like it's over 100 years. Because I remember my nan used to say to me, like, if they needed a doctor, they would call, and then, was it like a sixpence or something back in the day, or a halfpenny? And they would pay to see the doctor, and like, you'd pay for your prescriptions and that. I think I read something before that they was trying to stop the free prescriptions for the elderly. Which that, I'm just like, come on. That is where elderly people probably need more medication than most of like a younger person's age. I'm not saying that's for all cases, because I know younger people sometimes do have to have a lot of medication too, but you can't start, see, that's where I just think all the money that's going into it, and then you're going to charge like 80-year-old Mavis, I don't know, God knows how much, for her prescription that she needs for like her blood pressure or her blood thinners or her epilepsy, anything like that. That I just, One of my lovely says, cancer treatments and how some haven't changed in years despite the research. It's a bit odd. that's what I mean. I feel for something that has had so much research and the charity work and the funds going in it, there never seems to be a development. And as I say, with my friend's friend, it's just to see how he's progressed within treatment that could be available on the NHS, but they're choosing to privatise it, and it's only through the fact of his donations that he's been able to get it. It just, yeah, it just absolutely, it sickens me. It really, really does. And then the last one says, I think the big pharmacies are not interested in the cure for cancer because chemo is very profitable for them. So that's another thing. Not even the fact that there's a cure, but it's profitable for the companies that do the certain treatments now. I didn't think of that. Oh, I didn't think of that at all. Because obviously, like the chemotherapy and radiotherapies, that comes from the pharmacy or the healthcare provider who does that medicine. It's a very grey area, I think, when it comes in terms of where the money's being spent in the NHS, I think, because I feel it's a topic that's very whitewashed over. But what can I say? Guys, I'm going to have a Mikado. We are all scandaled at. So, my lovelies, that is another Scandals with Shan done. I would like to say, for everyone that has sent in comments, thank you so much, and your personal stories. Please don't watch this. And I don't want anyone to think there's been bashing comments or anything like that. It's just people's personal experiences and opinions. We are all entitled to opinions. We might not like all of them. That is life, and that's what I think progresses us to be our individual people. If we all had the same opinions, the world would be a very boring place. I would like to see the NHS get better staffed, equipped, resources, money, everything like that, because I feel being a doctor or a nurse or a midwife, when you leave school and you want to be that, it's like, yes, you have that passion of wanting to help people, and I feel like the way that they're treated, along the line you could lose that passion. And for something that could be such a rewarding job, it would be horrible to have to lose the passion for that, for something that you've been wanting to do and that you're trained and qualified to do and everything like that. But yes, guys, I don't want to sit here and ribbit rabbit. As I say, this is not us saying these are the facts. We're just sitting here having a little bit of a topic discussion, which, as I say, may be a bit controversial. If you'd like to leave any comments, good or bad, I will always respond down them, but let's just please be respectful to everyone's personal stories in here and people's own opinions and thoughts. Guys, if you did enjoy the video, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe down below. And as I say, leave us a comment if you've sent in, or if you want to DM me anything to do with what your thoughts are on the NHS. But yes, take care, stay safe as always, and I shall see you very soon for a brand new video. Whatever that may be. I think it could be a haul. No, I actually don't know. Bye, guys.